I don't know why, but I really love advertisements. A lot of them are super weird, but also pretty charming in their own way. Maybe it's the fact that you could do just about whatever you want to get your point across, which gives me a pretty good idea. BAM! If you haven't figured it out by now, no, I'm not really lost. This is more so to raise awareness, like, have you seen me? 'Cause you really should. It's things like this that leave a lasting impression on people. Trust me, you'll never forget a face. Can't say the same thing about certain video games, though. Since we already went over forgotten Nintendo franchises, I feel like it's about time we go over other properties that are now just relics of the past.
An intellectual property, or IP, is a creation that is owned by a person or group of people. These creations are often protected by copyright laws, trademarks, or whatever. Basically, you create it, you copyright it, you own it, it's yours. Now let me break it down in video game terms. Nintendo has Super Mario, Sony has God of War, and Microsoft has Halo. These are intellectual properties that you won't find on any other home console, unless one of these companies were to make some kind of agreement with the other. Anyways, you get the gist of it. Although intellectual property is more of an official term, you might often hear an IP described as a series, or of course, as a franchise. Now, as we learned before, some companies have more franchises than they know what to do with, which is pretty unfortunate because some really great games leave a lot of fans wanting more, only to inevitably get nothing because disappointment is a lot more common than happiness, isn't it?
So here's the deal. I chose 4 non-Nintendo franchises, and we're gonna go over them one by one and take a look at just what happened, you know? Where'd all the love go? Did these games go to the store for a gallon of milk and just never come back? I don't think so.
Henshin a Go-Go, baby! The Viewtiful Joe series saw its debut in 2003 and was released exclusively on the Nintendo GameCube. In this title, you control Joe, a nerdy movie lover turned superhero after he gets sucked into the film he's watching in order to save his girlfriend Sylvia. That's one way to interrupt the makeout session they were just having.
It sucks to see other people living your dream, huh?
Within 1 year, Viewtiful Joe saw a sequel which was released on both the GameCube and PlayStation 2. With that, Part 1 would get a re-release on the PS2 as well. Things were looking pretty good. In fact, Capcom, the series publisher, had a really great run during the 6th generation of gaming. It's safe to say that Capcom was on top of the world with franchises like Mega Man, Resident Evil, and Street Fighter, to name a few. At this rate, there seemed to be a new Viewtiful Joe game every year. Because there actually was a new Viewtiful Joe game every year. In 2005, Capcom released Viewtiful Joe Red Hot Rumble for the GameCube and the PSP? Whoa, really? Red Hot Rumble is actually pretty cool. It's one of those party-style fighting games, so a little different from the main series, which is more of a beat-em-up style. Speaking of beat-em-ups, a few months later in November of 2005, Capcom saw the success of the Nintendo DS and decided to make Viewtiful Joe Double Trouble. This one plays more like parts 1 and 2, but with those juicy little Nintendo DS touchscreen gimmicks. Unfortunately, this is where the series would come to an end, which is sorta depressing because all of these games were very well received and the character himself was super popular at the time, with Viewtiful Joe getting its own anime series as well as the aforementioned Red Hot Rumble having a tie-in with fast food company Johnny Rockets. It's been 17 years since the last installment, and as of today, I don't know if there's any hope for Viewtiful Joe. You see, while the series is property of Capcom, Viewtiful Joe was developed by Capcom's own Clover Studios. In 2007, Capcom shut down Clover Studios. While the development team was making great games like Viewtiful Joe, Okami, and God Hand, the sales just weren't up to par and Capcom had to pull the plug on Clover. When asked about a potential return at PAX East 2020, creator Hideki Kamiya said the following: "There's been a Viewtiful Joe 1 and 2, but there has been no 3. So for me personally, I would also love to finish that trilogy with the Viewtiful Joe 3. Personally, I really hope that it comes back. I don't want it to be lost in the sands of time, so to speak. I'm requesting it. I would love it if that would happen." As a fan of the series, that's great to hear, but unfortunately, this isn't Kamiya's decision, as it's more so up to Capcom to decide if they want to revive Viewtiful Joe for one last game.
You probably already know this, but what can I say? I'm a trendsetter, baby. My ways are irresistible.
Everybody wants to be trendy. Even not being trendy somehow still manages to be a trend itself, which is kinda weird, but whatever. Gaming's got a lot of trends. If something's popular and the sales reflect that, then why wouldn't you want to try your best to replicate that sweet success? One of the most noticeable trends in gaming is the mascot. Ever since the success of Pac-Man, Sonic, and Super Mario, it's no secret that companies try to build that one cute little mascot that audiences adore. With Microsoft entering the console race in 2001, a new character needed to emerge and help lead the Xbox to victory. So, in 2002 came the grand idea to release what many thought was Microsoft's answer to the likes of Super Mario and all those other cuddly mascots. Introducing Blinx the cat, a vacuum-wielding, time-manipulating, limousine-riding, jet-flying, kiss-stealing, wheelin'-dealing son of a gun. He's got green eyes. Green, cause Xbox, but I'll be honest, there isn't a whole lot to say about Blinx. The Blinx franchise is pretty average. It's just a 3D platformer with some fancy gimmicks added to the mix. The only problem with that is that during this period of gaming, there were so many wacky 3D platformers that it was pretty easy to get lost in the shuffle. It's sort of funny, cause the official Xbox magazine had Blinx on the cover and boldly stated, "Mario, Sonic, prepare for war, Blinx is here." And hey, I'll give credit where credit is due. Xbox magazine wasn't lying. Blinx was there. For 2 whole games, before 2015 came around and Microsoft just straight up dropped the trademarks on Blinx the cat. See ya.
So what have we learned so far? Well, you can't force an icon, they just happen. Blinx had his time to shine, but unfortunately he was just a cat with 2 lives.
While Blinx didn't do much for Microsoft, it's clear that he just wasn't mascot material anyway. The real mascot for the Xbox was already there since day one. With Halo sales being absolutely through the roof, Microsoft went ahead and made Master Chief their new poster boy from this point forward. What? A Sony franchise? You're telling me Sony dropped the ball on one of their biggest properties? Yeah, believe it or not, Sony had a phenomenal thing going with the Ape Escape series. In fact, of all the franchises on this list, Ape Escape has the most entries with a total of 14 different installments, spin-offs included. Ape Escape found its way onto the PlayStation in 1999. The concept of the game is pretty simple. Apes escaped. Now you gotta go through fun and creative worlds in order to stop the ape army from wreaking havoc on the whole world. The quirkiness of the title mixed with the fun gameplay ended up receiving high praise among audiences worldwide. Ape Escape also gets some historically significant points, since the game would make an impact in more ways than one. Some of you might be surprised to learn that the PlayStation controller didn't always have analog sticks, rather it looked like more of a Super Nintendo controller. Well, Ape Escape would be the first game ever to be designed around the brand new analog sticks and would fully embrace the transition from 2D to 3D gaming. At a certain point, it looked like Ape Escape was going to remain at the top alongside other Sony franchises like God of War, Gran Turismo, and Uncharted. But oh, how the mighty have fallen. It's been almost 11 years since the last Ape Escape game was released, but since then there hasn't been any word as to whether or not the series will continue. The problem here lies in the Ape Escape games themselves. There's only so much you can do with a game like this. Let me compare it to Super Mario real quick. Aside from spin-off games, Shigeru Miyamoto is constantly looking for new ways to keep the main games fresh. Ape Escape, well, you got a net and some monkeys. That still makes for a great game, but it needs a bit more. With that said, the quality of the Ape Escape series just quickly went downhill. There was too much Ape Escape in such a small amount of time. Mediocre spin-offs and lackluster main games just kinda made these monkeys fall into obscurity. Fortunately, Ape Escape still has an audience that would like to see a revival of the series, but in the end, it's up to Sony to make the final decision.
Honestly, as a fan of the series, I wouldn't mind seeing Ape Escape come back someday. Could you imagine? That would be bananas! Shut up! Son, would you like to explain the stack of failure that I found under your bed?
Oh, Microsoft. You disappoint me. Look, in 1985, there was a little company who would focus primarily on making games for the Nintendo Entertainment System, and launched hits like Wizards and Warriors and Battletoads. During the Super Nintendo and N64 era is when this company would really take off, and the age of Rareware was officially upon us. Rareware was an absolute beast in the video game industry. Their titles were as good as it gets, and the chemistry between them and Nintendo was undeniably a force to be reckoned with titles like Donkey Kong Country, Killer Instinct, Conker's Bad Fur Day, GoldenEye 007, and of course, Banjo-Kazooie. What began life as a Super Nintendo RPG with the codename Project Dream ended up being redeveloped into the dynamic bear and bird duo that we all love. Although Banjo-Kazooie would only get 2 games on the N64 and a couple average handheld titles, the series left enough of an impact to leave fans wanting more. When Banjo-Tooie released in the year 2000, there was a little in-game joke that referenced the possibility of a Banjo-3. Well, in 2002, Rareware was bought from Nintendo by Microsoft, which means that Rare would now develop games for Microsoft's brand new Xbox. This wouldn't have been so bad, but if you're gonna buy a whole company, then at least have that company make games. While Nintendo kept the Donkey Kong and Star Fox IPs, Rareware got custody of their hits like Battletoads, Conker, and Banjo-Kazooie. With that said, after years of waiting, it was finally announced that the duo would return, and Banjo-Kazooie Nuts and Bolts released on the Xbox 360 on November 11th, 2008. To the surprise of everyone, Nuts and Bolts absolutely sucks. It just didn't live up to the prior games and didn't feel like Banjo-Kazooie at all.
Ever since then, we really haven't seen a whole lot from Rare, and just like their other franchises, I think we have to let Banjo and Kazooie rest. I'm sorry.
Of every game I talked about, Banjo easily has the biggest fan base, and probably the highest chance at making a comeback. In fact, for some reason, Nintendo and Microsoft have been real close friends lately. Banjo and Kazooie were also invited to join the party and found their way into Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, fulfilling the dreams of many, myself included. Most recently, as part of the Nintendo 64 Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack, the original Banjo-Kazooie was added for free! Woo! As to where this friendship goes next is beyond me.
Before I go, I've got something I want to say. Hey Microsoft, let Rare come back home. Anyways, while someone finds these lost franchises, I gotta go hang up these flyers. Yeah, so what if I'm upstaging the real lost dogs, okay? If they loved you, they wouldn't have ran away. Spreading the word about this is my priority.